welcome to episode 15 of the Mind and Muse podcast. I am your host, Caroline, and as always, I am recording in my home, which is on the island of Puerto Rico in the Caribbean, and I live in a small town on the western side of the island that is called Aguada, and there I share my home with my husband and his dog Snoopy. And I come to you every so often. I've been trying to make it every 2 weeks, but it doesn't always work out that way for different reasons. This, my previous podcast, I think, was more over about 3 weeks ago because I have just returned from a, let's say, Thanksgiving vacation, extended Thanksgiving vacation, where I spent about 2.5 weeks between Florida and New Hampshire visiting my daughter Clarissa, who is the host of Crochet Cakes, and my son, who lives in New Hampshire, and also my daughter, my oldest daughter, who traveled to New Hampshire from Maryland so that we could all be together for Thanksgiving. And if you have been following me on Instagram, you will have seen the different family activities that we have shared. But in case you like to see that kind of thing, I'll share a couple of videos of things that we did while we were there at the end, so that I won't take up too much of the time of those of you that have come to me looking to share my crafting. But I will just say that it was a very nice time. I'm so glad we were able to do it, and hopefully we'll be able to repeat it sometime. Maybe not the near future, because with family, you know that you kind of like have to forget about some things and remember the good times and yearn them before you actually make them happen again. And just, I guess when we all get older and our kids have their own minds, and it takes a while to yearn those times again. But, you know, as it goes with mothers and children, it won't take that long. We will soon forget all of the mishaps and the mistreatings, and we'll want to be together again. So hopefully Clarissa will forget soon, because she is scheduled to come for a visit this Christmas starting on December 22nd. She'll be home again, and I kind of think she's looking forward to it, as am I. It's always good to have kindred spirits around the house so that we can share our crafting and share our love for baking and share our love for eating good things and just spend some time together. So we're all very happy that that's going to happen. Even though we saw each other a couple of times just recently, I know it's going to be a happy time for us too. So yes, I am back from my vacation in the United States, and during that time, I didn't take a lot of the projects that I had been showing you on the previous episodes, because some of them were pretty large, and so mostly while I was there, I was able to finish up and tidy up the ends of my boots. The boots, I believe I finished them here. I was able to finish them here completely, and I can show you some footage of how those boots worked in the wild for us while we were in New Hampshire. And I also took, almost finished, I believe I had to finish the ends of my add-along sweater, the pattern by Adidas Designs. I had completed it, except for the ends. I did that while we were in Florida, and that was my go-to outfit for my trip to New Hampshire, and it was very well suited because it was freezing cold. The day that we traveled, it wasn't supposed to snow, but it did, so that wool just kept me warm. I wore my boots, I wore the add-along, and I wore a couple of garments under the add-along, and everything was fine. We had a very nice time meeting up in Logan Airport. My son went to pick us up because we were getting in late and he didn't want us to take the bus. And so we had traveled together and saw the snow come down together, and we ate together at a diner. And so it was a nice time. So what am I wearing? I am wearing a garment. I believe it was, if not the first, one of the first garments that I made, because I can't remember right now if I made the Luna cardigan first before I made this, but it's one of the first ones. It is the Feather and Fan. I'm just going to check my notes for the name here. It is the Feather and Fan pattern. It's free on Ravelry. It's a free pattern on Ravelry by Rebecca Averill. And if it was a crochet make that I presented on episode 30 and episode 31 of the Crochet Cakes podcast, because I did, for some reason, 2 episodes in a row with her, with Clarissa Beth, the host of the Crochet Cakes podcast, and I presented this where she wore it, because I was wearing the Luna cardigan, and then I wanted to use up all of the yarn, so I added some detailing in the second color before I presented it again in the following episode where I was wearing it. So I guess the purpose was to show that the garment fit her and it also fit me. So yes, you can go back and check those episodes if you want to have more details about the yarn and the process and what difficulties I might have had, or what maybe I didn't have any difficulties. You can also check Ravelry, because I have a page up for it on my Ravelry account, so you can also check there. And moving on then with this podcast, the next theme, the next subject that I want to talk about has to do with Vlogmas. I know that a lot of podcasters have begun Vlogmas today, because today is December the 1st, the first day of December, and many podcasters have the series where they include a small podcast, a short vlog of their Christmassy experience for the month of December. I don't think I'm going to be doing that, but I do believe this is the last podcast before the year ends. I'm pretty sure it will be. If not the last, the second to the last actual 30-minute podcast, because I do intend to do like a sort of Vlogmas, but I will do the ending, the final 13 days of Christmas. And what has motivated me most to do this is the fact that I purchased and received an advent calendar, 12 days of Christmas advent calendar from Catherine of the Crafty Treats podcast. And I wanted to share that with you, though I can't open them yet if I were to follow the purpose of this gift. Because even though it is purchased, it is a gift, and you'll see why. I'm going to slide over and pick it up for a minute, and I will show you why. Even though it is purchased, I still believe it is a great gift from Catherine. I received 2 of these because I purchased one for myself, and as you can see by the name here, and she so kindly marked them, and one for Clarissa Beth. And just the box itself is beautiful. It will be a beautiful memory to keep of all my Christmas experience this year. And I'm really thinking about using the yarn that she has included here in a project immediately. I'm not going to wait. Every single day I'm going to put whatever yarn she has gifted me here into a project. And so I am starting on the 14th of December. I will begin opening up my packages. And that's why I believe also that I am going to do my Vlogmas starting on the 14th of December. And every day I will open up one of these little packages to show you what I have received. And I will also show you any progress that I have made on the item that I am creating with these minis. And so you can share in the process with me, because I know that this is going to be a very happy moment of my day for each of those 12 days. So that's Vlogmas, and those are our plans for sharing our 12 days of Christmas with you. And so now I am going to talk a little bit more about the making and the crafting that occurred while I was on my trip to New Hampshire and to Florida. First of all, in Florida, I already told you that I finished some of the items that I had taken with me that had to have their ends woven in, and etc. But another thing that we did together was that we met up on the Friday. I got there on the Wednesday the 14th maybe, and on that Friday we met up with Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet and Kalisha of the Quirky Monday podcast. And we met up in Orlando. We started at a cafe, and at that cafe we exchanged some tokens of appreciation. And so I can share with you, living in this bag, some of the things that we exchanged. The Kalisha of the Quirky Monday podcast shared with us. She is a sewist also, she sews. So she made these very pretty notion pouches. And there's her signature. And she also included, she has the Quirky Monday podcast, and she also has a shop on Etsy called the Quirky Monday Crafts. So you can go there and visit her if you're interested in seeing what she makes up. She also included for us tea, some lovely tea that I have already had for my breakfast drinks. And she also made this very pretty watercolor progress keeper. Pretty is that? How pretty is that? I think those are called lever back closures there. And so it was very sweet of her to think of us and the way she tried matching up with our little bags, the progress keepers that she included. So I do watch Kalisha's podcast, but I had never met her before, obviously. And I don't even know if we've had exchanged any commenting. Yes, it was our first time meeting up face to face, but I think we all got along so well. I think it was all, like many people have said tons of times, it's always when you meet up with one of the podcasters that you are watching. It's just like if you have known them forever. But the thing about it is that when they also watch you, in this case, then the feeling is mutual. So we're both comfortable with each other. It's not only me being comfortable with the other person because I'm so used to seeing them week after week, but they also feel comfortable with me. So the hugs and the gestures of appreciation seem so much more sincere. They don't seem like, you know, I'm doing this because I have to, but I really don't feel it. It just seems so much genuine. So yes, it was really great meeting up with her, and she is really quirky, as the name says. Hannah also exchanged with us lovely tokens of appreciation, and she went a little bit overboard, I think, but I mean, that's Hannah. And she exchanged, she brought for me, she gifted me these Christmas fingering weight cotton yarn. I mean, Hannah outdid Santa. I mean, you know, it's 75% Pima cotton and 25% acrylic fingering weight. And I'm thinking at the moment about some very pretty cushions. Clarissabeth has a pattern up on her blog for a cushion, and it's a bobbly cushion, and I think it might look kind of sweet in these colors. So yes, I'm thinking about I love these colors because they say Christmas to me whenever I look at them, so I might as well put them into something Christmassy. If not, I might crochet up a stocking, one of those one of those Christmas stockings, but it's very soft and I love the colors. So thank you, Hannah, for that gift. She also, and I just recently found that there was a candy inside of here, and I was like, oh my goodness. It lasted for 2 weeks because I hadn't seen it before. But she also shared some, I'm thinking, where am I going to put these? some decals, some stickers, crafty like a fox. How pretty is that? That would look so nice as a, probably the background of a wool painting also. Maybe I'll do a painting of a fox and put that on it somehow. And then the other one is the queen of the craft room. Of course, I'm the queen of the craft room here because there's no king. It's just the queen. I'm the only crafter, but that's cool. Maybe I'll put it on the door to my room. Would that bother anybody? Oh, and look what she got. An applique. This is, I'm thinking it's alpaca. I'm thinking it's alpaca because it looks very much like the alpaca blanket that I'm working on. They always put this kind of like a saddle. Is that a saddle? Some type of some type of a saddle over it. And that is just so cute. This one I'm thinking about felting it onto one of a Christmas blouse or something like that, because it's really pretty. And then she also gave us some crafty goodness. So here's an ornament for my tree. It's not made up yet, but it is I think it's sort of like a cross stitch. So yeah, that's going to be one of the new ornaments for my tree this year. If I put it up, because the tree is always put up by Clarissa Beth, and she won't be here until the 22nd, and so I don't know. Do I have to put up the Christmas tree this year, Clarissa? She'll probably want to see one when she comes. Something that I've left to her for ages, so I can't remember the last time I put up a Christmas tree. But that was from our meetup with Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet and Kalisha of the Quirky Monday podcast. And we exchanged with them, that we in terms of Clarissa and I, but I'll only talk about what I exchanged, so that Clarissa will probably talk about what she exchanged. But just before I went down to the trip, Hannah and I had exchanged a conversation because she was participating in the Get Your Yarny Wishes Granted for 2018. And though I didn't participate actively, I didn't look up people, but I had just read, she's on my feed, so I read one of her posts, and she was asking for a tape measure, and I said, oh, that's okay. I've got 1,000 tape measures. I've got one in every single project bag, so I'm going to take one down too when I go to visit. But I didn't want to just give it to her like that because it's just, I've got a lot of these plastic, very not expensive tape measures. And so I took her the tape measure, but I wrapped it in a cozy, in a retractable tape measure cozy. And if you didn't know that such a thing existed, the only thing you have to do is do what I did and write it into Google. And you will see all of the people that are dedicated to making fantastic looking cozies for the tape measures. And so I thought, this is pretty good, because Allie of the Little Drops of Wonderful podcast is hosting a CAL. I can't remember the name of the CAL right now, but it has to do with creating cozies. But she said they could be tea cozies because of the fact that it's winter and you just want to wrap everything up warmly. So they've got, she is together with another podcaster, and they are hosting this CAL that has to do with creating cozies and wrapping things, as long as it's not a animate item, it's not a person, something that is breathing, or I don't know if animals count, but as she said, things that only wrap inanimate objects. So it can be a teacup, or it can be a bottle warmer, or it can be a cup, or it can be a retractable tape measure. And so I wonder if I have it here. I think I have it somewhere, because I made two. I made one, which was like my test. I don't know about when you crochet, but when I crochet, most of the things that I make turn out to be, what do they call them? Sacrificial elements. Because you make it once and you, I don't think I like it the way it came out that much. And then you make it a second time and to adjust it and so that it's better. So this was the first cozy that I created. Here you go, and I'll put up a picture And so I wanted it to be 2 colors, and this is sort of like a flower. And then you can, you know, pull out your tape measure and then retract it back in by pressing the button as always. So it doesn't affect, I don't believe, it doesn't affect the way it works. And the reason that this was sacrificial was because I found that it was a little bit too big, it was a little bit too loose. So it might have been that in the pattern, the person that was creating the cozy had a measure that was a little bigger than mine, a tape measure that was bigger, the circumference was bigger. So I recreated this, I used the exact same pattern, but and I'll put the pattern down here at the bottom of the screen, which one that I used, but I wanted it to be cozier. I wanted it to be tighter so that it wasn't, the cover wasn't wiggling around as much. So I adjusted the pattern to use a less amount of stitches. And also I realized here that this flower, I had been working on the wrong side when I made it. It's supposed to curve down and mine was curving up, which doesn't necessarily look bad, and usually put a button here in the middle. And, well, since I was going to redo it, well, then I did, for the one I made Hannah, I put the flower the way the original designer had thought it should be. And so I'll put up a picture here of the one that I made for Hannah. And I told her, well, if it bothers you too much, if you find that it's a pain to retract it, well, then just take the cozy off. But I just thought it was so much a nicer gift is if I enclosed the tape measure in a cozy. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can look it up online. There are beautiful cozies, the animals and turtles and snails and lions and dogs. They have all, people are just so creative. And even with a small thing like that, they're beautiful. They're really very, very beautiful. So yes, and it also, I got the chance of entering it into the cal of Little Drops of Wonderful. So I've got, she has the crochet items, and so I already entered it into that cal. And so I got a head start on that one because most of the cals that I was planning on entering my makes into for this second half of the year, well, never got finished in time. And so I was sure to get a head start on that one. Okay, so that's another make that I made while I was over there. And when we went to New Hampshire, one of the things that we did was to meet up with Vivian, because Vivian of the KCACY podcast is the mother, she's the knitter, and she co-hosts the podcast with her daughter Allison. Vivian lives in New Hampshire and Allison lives in Edinburgh. And so she was coming down for Thanksgiving and we wanted to try and meet up, but the dates weren't perfect. Like I went down almost as early as she did, but I went to Florida and she went straight to New Hampshire. So by the time I was getting to New Hampshire, she was ready to leave. But we were able to set up a meet for the Friday after Thanksgiving. So we met in Panera restaurant. Probably not, I can't say for lunch because I don't know about them, but we were all Thanksgiving out and all turkeyed out. We ate so much the day before and the day after with the leftovers that, you know, we just wanted to meet up somewhere. We could maybe get something hot and just converse and talk and share what we've been up to since we last saw each other in March, which was in Edinburgh. So we were lucky enough to meet up twice with these friends that we have made through our crafting. And we would never have met them if it hadn't been for our crafting and for the podcasting. And so it's just amazing the way these things are happening nowadays. I mean, it's really a good thing, I guess. People say so many bad things about social networking and all the internet stuff, and there's so much paranoid about who's following us, who's trying to steal our identity and all that. That is so great to be able to say that something good comes out of this, that if it hadn't been for the internet, this might never have happened. So thank you, Allison and Vivian, for meeting up with us. It was great to see you a second time. And it was, I have to say, the second time was just so much more natural maybe than the first time, because it was like, I mean, I shouldn't say it was like, I think that we are friends. So at our meetup, we also, obviously we went to meet up to talk to each other, but we also exchanged, like I say, our gestures of appreciation. So Vivian brought me one of her bags from her shop. She has the Pearl and Plum shop on Etsy. And this was one of the bags. If you check out her Etsy shop every so often like I do, I have her on automatic notifications. So if she makes something and puts it in the shop, I know it immediately. And how appropriate, right? For a woman that's always trying to crochet socks instead of knit socks. A woman who's on a mission to make the perfect crochet sock and brag about it. Well, she gives me this beautiful sock bag. And in the sock bag, who can't love a sock bag that has pockets on the inside, she also gifted me this. Initially, I just kept looking at it and I thought it was a felted stone. You know, that type of thing exists. And it smells so nice. And then it was my daughter that said, Mom, or maybe we were talking about it. The thing about it is that it's got soap on the inside, so you use it to shower. And then you give yourself a nice massage with the wool, and at the same time, use the wonderful smelling soap that's on the inside. I really don't know if I am going to use it. Maybe I'll just put it in my lingerie drawer and have my things smell nice, but how appropriate. I am also, if you know me, a felter, so I was very appreciative of this. And in addition to that, she put inside the bag stitch markers. But can you see? They are Halloween themed. So these are my favorite types of stitch markers, I have to say. The ones that are like little safety pins. They last so long, and they do get lost so easily, though. Ask Clarissa, because I'm always letting them go. But they can be used as stitch markers or as progress keepers. And so they have got tulips on them. They're in the shape of tulips, but they're orange, black, and white. So yes, so appropriate, so great. And so it's always so great to meet up with friends. Not so much always, I mean, for the exchange. If there hadn't been a gift exchange, it would have been as equally wonderful to have met up with them. But of course, I am very, very grateful for what she has given me there. And in exchange, well, I also gifted her one of my, what are they? My cupcake pin cushions that I made for Clarissa's Dainty by Crochet Cakes shop on Etsy. And you can still scoot over there. There are still a couple of them left in the shop. Obviously, I did not gift her this one because I have it with me, but I'll put up a photo of the one that I gifted her, very similar to this, except the colors are different. And I don't remember, no, hers wasn't chocolate, but the colors are different. It should have been chocolate because Vivian likes chocolate, but she showed me a picture of her using them, so I know that it went into good hands. There's nothing better than making crafty things and gifting them to people that appreciate craftiness. So that was another make. I created this one and the one that I gave to Vivian, but this one I forgot to take it when I was when I went to gift it. I had forgotten it, so it got left behind. But I'm sure it'll find a home soon. Maybe Clarissa will take it with her when she goes back from her trip and put it up on her site also. So if you're interested in this type of thing, I've got a couple of these cupcakes, and I think there's a cake pin cushion also. And so they're up on the Dainty by Crochet Cakes site on Etsy, and you can go over and get yourself one. So there's another make. It has been a very crafty couple of weeks, even though I wasn't at my home. So those were our meetups. While we were in Florida, I had mentioned that we visited 2 shops. The first shop was called Knit with an exclamation point. It was the smaller of the 2. And at this shop where Clarissa and I found yarn in a $1 basket. So the basket was full of yarns that were for $1, and Clarissa just went crazy and bought everything that was left in there, and I was lucky to get one last 50-gram skein that I immediately used. I don't know if you're familiar with, it's called Karaoke. It's Karaoke. I looked it up and found that it had been discontinued. It's since I think about 2006. So it's been discontinued for a while, but it was on sale for $1, and it was like this lemon lime color. But I do have my finished object with me. And so this is the finished object. This hat is a pattern by Clarissa of Crochet Cakes. She has it on her blog, crochetcakes.com. It is a free pattern. It is called the Slouchy Linen Hat, I believe. I think that's the name. And so it was already published, so I wasn't testing it, but indirectly I was testing it. And so this hat has in it actually 3 different types of yarn, because I don't know if you can see. Try and give her a twirl so you can see. But what I did was that I stranded the Karaoke yarn with a mohair that had been in my stash for a while, and I really wanted to use it for something, and I thought, well, how appropriate a hat. And so somehow I thought that would make my stitches bigger, because I did use a larger crochet hook than the one that she suggests, and thought my stitches would be bigger. I might get enough to finish the hat, but no, I don't know what made me think that. It did change the measurements in the pattern, obviously. Clarissa does 20 inches around for this ribbing, like 20 inches to go around the head. I had to do only 18, so obviously there is it did make it a bit bigger. But in terms of, and also in terms of the length, once she finishes the ribbing here, Clarissa does 22 rows, I believe, of linen stitch. I only did 18. Before she starts the decreases, that is, before I started the decreases. And whatever yarn, the decreases, once I reached the decreases, I had no more yarn left. I didn't have any, either the mohair or the Karaoke yarn. They were out. So the third yarn is this beautifully colored Angora blend. And whatever was left, I put into the pom-pom. Okay, so that's her hat. If you have any doubts she's been mentioning it quite a bit, so if you have any doubts, I did make it a bit more slouchier than she did because I wanted it to be slouchy. But it also looked fine. It also looked fine as a beanie, because I did it once as a beanie and decided, no, I don't like it so much. I think I want to go slouchier. And so I ripped it back and I did I added more rows of the green before I started my decreases, and so I made it into a slouchy. So I actually did this twice. And I stayed up all night until I got it done. So I don't think you want to see it on me. I think she's a wonderful model here because it's hot and I don't want to put that on my head, but just so that you believe me when I say that it fits. We'll just do this. There you go. There you go. There is my slouchy linen hat, which was made with the yarn, the Karaoke yarn. I'll put this back. And what I wanted to tell you about the Karaoke yarn is that it called my attention not only because it was for $1, but it was 50% soy silk and 50% wool. It had 50 grams, 100 meters, and so, which is about maybe 108, 109 yards. So yeah, I would have needed 2 to finish the whole hat in the color. But what do you think? Look at all of these colors are natural from the yarn, except that it's looking a little bit darker, because if you see like that orange, That is from the mohair that I stranded with it. Let's see. This is my mohair. 40% Super Kid mohair, 40% nylon, and 18% merino wool, extra fine. I do think this has a, it says color 2532. So yeah, but I do believe I also looked up to see if I could find more of this. This one I couldn't find in the stashes on Ravelry, but some of them did have the number written in words, because I guess you can go to the site and they get the number. And the green is the Angora. 50% Angora, 50% wool, 50 grams, 124 yards. The color is 4450. And I do believe that this was a yarn that was sent by a viewer in the mail. It might have been sent to Clarissa, well, because it was her podcast. And by no means do I want the viewer to feel unappreciated if the person is watching this. It is much appreciated. It was a wonderful yarn. It's strange. I don't know if strange, because I've never dealt with this kind of yarn before, but we might have had it in the stash for about a year, because it was a yarn that Clarissa left behind when she left. I guess she didn't realize that she didn't take all of her yarn with her. And so I've been meaning to use it for some time, and I didn't want her to know that I had kept it. But it was almost beginning to felt together. Like I didn't have to ball this up, cake this up before I used it. I used it directly from the skein because it was so stuck together. It was so felted together that I pulled it apart and it didn't get tangled at all. So I just used it like that. But I am very happy with that make. I like the hat, I like the way it looks, and I love the yarns. So I'm still considering if I am going to, I did contact one of the people that had the karaoke yarn in their stash in the color that I was looking for. She said she still had some left over. And I am considering if I am going to purchase a couple of the skeins from her stash so that I can make a matching scarf or cowl or maybe some fingerless mitts. I think I would really like some fingerless mitts because I've been wanting to do them for a time. So I might take her up on that. Yeah. So that was another make that came out of my trip. This was a very productive trip. But well, I didn't do it over there, but it was the first thing that I started and completed when I got back. And I am down to the last two things that I wanted to talk to you about. One of them is, had I started this one before I left? I might have started it, but I don't think that I shared it because I think I started after my last podcast. But it was the Sege sock. Maybe I started it. I have to look at my own vlog to know. But if I hadn't shown it to you before, this is the Sege sock by Addie Day. And I've got one complete sock. When I name it, it's going to have something to do with Logan Airport, with Boston, and with our trip to Boston, because I completed this sock while I waited for my trip back. I tripped back from Boston, well, we came back from New Hampshire through Boston, through Orlando, and then back to Puerto Rico, and the trip back was hectic. It was. I'm going to leave it because I know Clarissa has a second video where she's going to talk about our trip to New Hampshire, and so I don't want to give you the details twice. You can go check her next podcast, but it was, the way back was just, it was just so hectic. So many things happened to us on the way back that I got stuck in the airport for the Orlando airport. The original plan was that we got back at 2:30 to Orlando. We'd spend the day together in Orlando, or maybe return to her apartment and then travel back to the airport later on, because my flight back to Puerto Rico wasn't until almost 12 o'clock at night, 11:50 at night. But that couldn't happen for various reasons that I will leave for Clarissa to explain. And so I got stuck in the airport maybe from 5:30 in the afternoon. Well, not stuck, but I had to spend more time at the airport than I planned. And that would have ended up to be maybe, the plan was going to be maybe 6 hours, but my flight was delayed for another hour. So I ended up being 7 hours at the airport, and I was able to complete this sock, which I think looks great. I made this sock a size 4. From the pattern, I followed the size 4. I followed the size 4, and I found the sock was a bit big. It ended up coming down too long here, and I had to eliminate some of the mini gusset here. I had to eliminate some of the rows from the mini gusset before she started the heel because my heel was ending up to be too long. It still is a bit long, but I'll live with it because I don't want to redo it. I had to do this heel 3 times. And I also had, because of the fact that it is bigger, when I got up here to the last rows, and it's not actually a cuff, but the last coordinating is a contrasting. You probably can't see it that much because it looks a lot like this, like it's another stripe, but this is actually done in the contrasting color. And I used a smaller hook. It's done in a 3.5, and I used a 3.25. Luckily, I had one in my project bag because it was too loose. It was too loose at the top, too loose for my leg, and so I reduced it. And yeah, it fits a lot better. The next one is going to fit better because I'm going to do it in a size 3, which I had already done. I had already begun making the second sock up in one size smaller. Actually, I made this one first, and I found it too small. So then I said, well, instead of breaking this apart, I'm going to make the second sock in a larger size. This one is too big, and so now I have to jingle in between. I'll probably have to play around with the gusset. The gusset might have to have more rows, or I don't know. But this is already at the point where I can start adding on the heel. I haven't done so because that other heel, I had to do it 3 times, and so I'm a chicken like that. Things like frighten me away. But as Hannah said so many times when we met up, it's only yarn and it's only stitches. You mess up, you break them up, and this is crochet. So you rip them back and you do it again. And so, yes, I have yet to do the heel on this so that I can finish it, but it's not far away. It will be done probably by the time I start Vlogmas. It'll be one of the things that I can share with you on those short videos. And so it's a lovely pattern. I think it's great. I think it's probably one of the thickest crochet socks that I have made because of the fact that it uses front post and back post stitches here. But it's very comfortable. I like it a lot. And so this yarn, if I haven't mentioned it, yeah, I purposely left the ball bands of my yarn out. And somehow, anyway, no, they're over here. I got it. I purposely left them out so I wouldn't be looking for them. This is Opal called Sunrise. This is the way the sock will look when you knit it. And so if I look up my crochet version, and it is not so far off. A little bit. It's a little bit off, but not that much. There's not a whole bunch of pooling going on, which is normally what happens when you try and crochet a self-striping yarn. So yeah, all in all, I like it. I think it's a nice sock, and I wish I had finished it for my trip to New Hampshire because it's a very warm sock. It would have been very useful because it was just freezing winter down there when we went. So yes, I'm very happy with that make. Half-finished object, right? It's and I see it coming to an end in the near future. And I also see more of those socks in my future because I really like the way it looks. I've got some Christmas socks coming up. Maybe I'll do them in that pattern or not. I don't know yet. But yeah, but I do see more of those socks in my future. The last thing that I wanted to talk to you about was just a short update on my alpaca blanket, while we were meeting up in Florida with Hannah and Kalisha, one of the things that just came to my mind was, it's been so long since I worked on that blanket. It had been about 2 weeks by then. I wonder if I'm going to go back and finish this, because you know how it is that when you put a project down, picking it back up is a lot harder. And that's why I always try to work on things continuously. But I did get back and I did work on my blanket. I haven't finished it. I was going to say obviously, but that might necessarily not have to be the obvious thing, because I've been back already for a week. And if I had worked on it every day for a week, I might have gotten it close to being done. I mean, it does have 2 borders around it before it's actually finished. But let me just show you that I have completed all of my color changes. And so I have no more yarn management to worry about. There, let me just move them to the back because I want you to be able to appreciate the alpaca head. Here's my alpaca. It is now complete. Here it is. Ears and all, eye and all, eyeball, I guess, and all. He is complete. And so what I am missing, I have no more color changes. I am on the final part where I only have to work up the gray. And so right now there are 19 box stitches, but of course 19 box stitches multiplied by 4 stitches that create the box. Well, that create, you know what I mean if you know C to C. Each one of these, right now they look like half of a square, because it's the idea is that when you put together it becomes a square stitch. But anyway, there are 19 of them. And so, and every time I go back and forth, one reduces, and so maybe I have 20 rows left for the main part of the blanket, and each one of those rows is reduces. So the next row that I have to do will take me less time because there'll be 1 set less of stitches, and so that's great. I'm foreseeing that I might be able to get this done in a couple of sits. The truth of the matter is that I don't have a lot of time to sit down over the next couple of days because I'm at the end of the semester and there's a lot of tests to correct and a lot of final exams to prepare and a lot of grade calculation, but I will find time and I will finish, at least complete the main part and only have my borders left to work on once school is out. So, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for stopping by and for pressing that watch button. And if you feel happy with what I have shared with you, if you've liked what I have happened, hit the like button. If you have enjoyed the contents of this podcast, maybe you would like to share it with others, and you can do so by either subscribing and pressing the like button. That helps for the podcast to get recommended to more people. And that's one way of sharing. Another way of sharing is simply to hit the share button and to send the link to the podcast through mail or through a message or to Twitter or to Facebook and share it with other people. So if you feel that you would know somebody who would like to see the content of my podcast, feel free to send them the link. And that's the way a community grows. That's the way a community grows. And I have seen some growth in our subscribers over the last couple of months. And I am grateful for those of you that enjoy what you see here and are so willing to share it with others. So I think we will see a little bit more of each other over the next couple of weeks if we decide to actually do Vlogmas. I will be out there a little bit more, and you can come and share more time with me if you would like to. And so until we meet again, keep yourself safe, keep yourself healthy, and keep crafting. And remember that you can always comment below and share with me what you're crafting, what you're working on. Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm gonna get my boots
Get me
back.
in my Star Wars uniform.
My boots.
I feel like Luke Skywalker.
See,
Yeah, that's his
those
Han Solo.
are my boots. Warm.
They're not really warm, child. My feet are freezing, but I only put on my lace crochet socks today. I didn't put on my... And these, it's a lie. They're supposed to be apt for wind resistant, water resistant, and thermal for as low as 20 degrees, negative 20, and it's only 14 degrees and my hands are freezing. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Do I look like Luke Skywalker? Because I feel like Han Solo. Okay, I just wanted to take a picture over there.